Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Okay. I know Jess is saying okay, but it's not okay. I'm not ready. Oh, here I am. I am ready. Hello there. Hello there.
Hello there. Good morning, my dear.
Good morning. Tom Sokolowski, late of the Warhol Museum. We're doing erstwhile.
Yes, erstwhile. Yes.
Erstwhile is now erstwhile. We're gonna the
or sometimes as the other archaic
that's
form.
Right, sometimes. But there's been a lot of Warholian stuff.
Well, it was
going
Andy.
on.
It would have been Andy
birthday.
Warhol's
85.
5.
You know, I was thinking, I don't think I would want to see Andy Warhol at 85. Maybe sometimes it's better if you sort of die.
Well, that's true. I mean, the myths are always. Well, the interesting thing there, I don't know. Do you know about what they've done?
Yes, and I want to talk to you because
yes.
what they have done is place a
Earth cam, which is one of these cameras that they've had at various places around the world, where the camera is there 24 hours observing a certain locale.
And the locale in this case
is the gravesite in the cemetery in Bethel Park of Andy Warhol.
Mr. Andrew Warhol. And so he has a camera now on his gravesite all the time.
Oh, and also one in the nave of the church, St. John Chrysostom in South Oakland, where his family worshipped.
Okay, now this strikes me as stupid, but that's just my reaction. I mean, come on. Pretty soon there'll be visions. What is that about?
Well,
I mean, I've seen little tweets. Someone is eating their lunch on Andy Warhol's grave. Oh, look at the woman lying next to his grave.
Well, let me give you two answers to that.
All right, jeez.
One, I'm going to give you the art historian's view. That in ancient Rome, there was a tradition that you would go, particularly on the first anniversary of the death, but subsequently as well, you go on the anniversary to the burial site in the catacomb, and you would have the family go, and they would bring a picnic, but also they would carry a marble bust of that person, and the person who would carry the marble bust is the member of the family who looked the most like dead Uncle Joe. So there is that tradition of celebration. You know, a person lives on in spirit. I mean, my personal view, and things change.
But what does that have to do with the 24-hour camera?
Wait, I'm getting there. I think, although Warhol had this notion of 15 minutes of fame, personally, I feel it's a little
much.
Yeah, ghoulish, in the sense that I think Warhol was very
private,
and specifically private about his religion.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, there is the notion of when you say a final resting place, it's a resting place, not a place for tap dancing. And also, the other thing about it is, from my point of view, and, you know, I respect my colleagues who are there now, but that, as they say on the website, it's called Figment, because when Andy Warhol was asked about, what does he think about life after death and all that, since he was a communicant and what have you, he said, I don't want to think about that. And then he said, I believe in reincarnation. I'd like to come back as the diamond on Liz Taylor's hand, when what's his name? Burton gave her that humongous ice cube-sized diamond. And then later in the interview, he said, I've changed my mind. And they said, I'd like a blank tombstone. And then he said, well, no, I've changed my mind. I'd like my tombstone to say Figment, meaning that this persona of Andy Warhol, who was born as Andrew Warhol, that was a real person, and that person's buried. But Andy Warhol was a figment, just like Marilyn Monroe was a figment of Norma Jean Baker. So in a sense, for someone who wanted his final resting place to be forgotten, his myth, his figment could live.
Absolutely, and
this
does. But
is a little...
let Andrew Warhol rest in peace.
Yeah, no. In a sense, yeah.
I mean, I just don't
that's just my
understand
view,
what the...
you know.
So is this like they're going to do that forever? I mean, what is that? I mean,
well, I think unless people...
is?
Well, I think right now, especially with the, the business of the 6th of August, but I mean, in the future, it's not going to be like a webcam on the moon or something.
Well, I didn't see why they thought this was a great idea, but it just strikes
it's about
me as
publicity, and obviously Warhol was a publicity hound. But also, the other thing is, when he made this point of in the future everyone will be world famous for 15 minutes, it was because of people like you, namely that when the Kennedy assassination happened, and as people of our age will remember, at that point TV ended at 11 o'clock at night, dong ding dong, or God Bless America, and then well, when Kennedy died, it was the first time there was 24-hour coverage. And Warhol realized, what the blank are they going to do with all that empty space? They're going to have to put the crap in. That's the 15 minutes. But he also meant, on the downside, that, you have your of glory, like, if the Pirates win the World Series, but next year they may not.
You start all over again.
Well, you start all over, and also things do fade. Marilyn Monroe gets old. Judy Garland loses her teeth.
That's right. Things
and
change.
It's the downside, and that's what he wanted people to remember. So, in a sense, his fame as this figment exists, but the poor guy laying in the grave, and especially the guy who wouldn't have wanted to be buried in Pittsburgh. So it's even more of like,
well, that's true.
You done be there, bitch.
He might not have minded a grave in
some grand place
in Manhattan with some huge,
in
wondrous
Trinity Church.
Yeah, right. That he might not have. Oh, well.
Or be cremated. Who knows? I mean, I have no idea what his wishes would have been on that level. But
now, in cases like this, clearly his family would have had to sign off on this. No.
I mean, when he died, because there was, his family was the only blood relationship, there was no legal reason that they couldn't take the body.
Right.
And number one, decide what the
where would you be buried
would be, and whatever. But no, in terms of his legacy and that, all is left to the foundation.
Okay, but
even in terms of
the family probably bought the plot. The foundation.
Well, to me, the interesting thing is the family. Well, I think the family may, and I can't speak for them, like it a little bit. But the thing I was thinking about was, they show the scene of the tombstone, and there's balloons and all sorts of Campbell soup cans on top of it that people bring and whatever. But you see, like, Tom Sokolowski, Lynn Cullen, Mr. Jonathan.
Other people who didn't ask to be.
Yeah, and, what do they think when they have tap dancing clowns? And they have their right. But certainly the cemetery had to sign off.
You know what's interesting about this, and my views of cemeteries have changed. I once, as a radio talk show host, just had a fit because of some fundraiser that was being held, and I can't remember who had benefited. It was a great charity.
In a cemetery?
On Halloween night in a cemetery. And I can't remember if they were going to run through, if some kind of a run or this. And I said, this offends me. Now, and I really went on a rant about it. Mm-hmm. I don't think I would do that same rant today. On the other hand, I still think there's a level of disrespect.
Well, I remember to add to that personal.
I don't know.
Well, it's interesting. The personal thing, when last year of my mother's life, and she was, last 10 years, and she was getting, senile and all that. But every time I'd go, we'd drive to the cemetery and see my father's grave. And, we'd stop. And then in the latter years, she wouldn't even get out of the car because it was a ordeal for her. But I remember we'd always comment, there was around the corner from where my parents' graves are now, both of them, was a man, and every time we went, over like how many years, in the clement weather, he'd be there with his lawn chair sitting next to his wife.
My God.
And I mean, you could say, I know many people go and clip the grass around so it's not mangy and what have you. Because if you let the
But
cemetery
to see him every time you went means he was there every day.
With his wife. He was so connected to her. But the other thing I remember, there's a great short story. I can't remember who wrote it, but they did it on TV. And I remember it was Maureen Stapleton and an actor, and I can't think of his name, but if I said, you know who it was. And she was a widow, and this took place in Queens, where there's a huge cemetery
Yes.
when you go to the airport. And she would sit there, like by her husband's grave, and she would watch for widowers. And it was so poignant because she's talking to him and talking about her husband, and then.
But she's really on the lookout.
But then at the end, she says something, and he said, "Oh, I always loved Margaret Whiting." So there she is sitting on the tomb, and she sings, "If you take my heart, if I ask," and she's doing like a chanteuse, and he finally gets the point and leaves. But I thought it was such a sort of charming story. And then cemeteries do have a kind of quiet.
There's
an elegiac quality to them for obvious reasons,
Right, but also to have the living create life. I mean, live in a cemetery on occasion. Seems like a good idea, though, too.
Well, there's
That's
a group.
Where I think I was
there are
wrong
a group
about
of
that.
very
I don't know.
gilded ladies, shall we say, in Pittsburgh, who walk for their constitutionals, and they walk in one of the fancy graves,
sure.
and so they're called the Cemetery Club. And it's very exclusive.
I do love walking in cemeteries. I do love reading the headstones and trying
the really old ones,
and trying to ascertain. I mean, there's so much to be. It's amazing how much information can be had in a name. Two dates. And maybe one other little thing, or with its placement next to another thing. And you start seeing all of this history. And
well, the most amazing thing on that is, I agree with you, and I had been to Père Lachaise and Montparnasse, rather. And the most fabulous one, though, is in Rome. There's a cemetery that's called the Protestant Cemetery. Because when there were so many people taking the what was called the Grand Tour, because it was said that, let's say, if you were an Englishman, no one would be completely educated unless you meant the Grand Tour, which meant going to Greece, going to Rome.
But you mean they would drop dead in Rome?
Well, yeah, because the heat, and then there were people who lived in Rome for a while. But it's not very big, and even today, in order to be buried there, because one of my professors, he went to Rome and I did, and he dropped dead, and he wanted to be buried there. And I remember we had to do this whole thing, and finally they agreed. And it's mostly, foreigners, because of the reason it was a Protestant cemetery, and they couldn't be buried in a Catholic, or they didn't want to. But oh my God, Keats is buried there, and Shelley.
So you're in good company.
Oh, and some of them, and then what was his name, who was Keats's lover? And he's buried near the end with just this little stone, and it said one whose name was writ only in water.
Oh, wow.
And, it's beautiful. Some of these tombstones are like 400 years old.
But here's the thing. I know someone I know recently bought 2 plots.
Plots, yes, right.
Plots. Bought 2 plots.
He plots right in front of his mother's house.
And thank God they just bought the plots.
Yeah, right.
So, but in describing it to me, I said, "Oh, well, that's it." I mean, it was described in these.
Was it the shade of an old apple
exactly.
tree?
Under the shade of, you can imagine, with the rolling hills.
Yeah.
And then she started naming the
neighbors?
Yes. And the thises are buried there, and then those and that. And I'm thinking, there's something
weird about that.
There's something, I mean,
it was
if you're dead.
Location.
But you're dead. I mean, I don't know what.
That's it, yeah.
But also, in that regard, because the Homewood Cemetery is one that I often walk through.
It's a lovely cemetery. Yeah.
It's beautiful, and there's a lot of
the golden oldies of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, golden oldies there. But what strikes you is that, because that cemetery is, huge, and you go up and up and up and up, and there's hills, but it is true that on the top of the hills are the
no scum there.
No, the rich people. And I was thinking, how odd that even in death,
right,
they get the best view.
Well, you know.
But what is it? What is it good for?
Well, you know, let me tell you a very personal story. I have a cousin who just died, who was 74, 11 years older than I. And the poor guy sort of never, his mother died when he was 7, I think. And his father always had to work, and then they moved into one of my mother's sisters. She was this
He had a rough life.
Well, a horrible rough life. And then he was always overweight, and then he developed diabetes, and twice he had to have amputations. He died, had a heart thing, and died a few days ago. And his wishes were that there be nothing, that he would be cremated, there'd be no funeral, no memorial service. And it was so sad because he was a nice guy. He was a bit of a sort of boob.
That's interesting.
Well,
that
I think
somebody
he felt.
just
Well, I
wants to-
think part of it was, hey, no one really cared about me that much, and why do it now?
Oh, how sad.
I know, it's really sad. And and the one thing I remember with my mother, especially when she was, before she got really loony, but he would go once a week to see her. Now, partly, he was very fond, and my mother was his
but
godmother.
This is a good thing.
But it was a good. They were both lonely
in
in that. But that
Yes,
it was,
yes.
and it's so sad that he. And I remember it was that he always wanted a girlfriend. But I remember my mother would tell him because, he'd meet you and say, let's go on a date. Well, he would put on a tuxedo, order up like a limousine.
He did too much.
And then brought 17 dozens of roses.
It would freak the
and the
woman
girl,
out. Yeah, freak her
and
out.
she'd say, go to Pee Wee Golf, buy a hot dog.
Don't start so big.
Don't start so big.
Really...
But it's just so sad that...
Well, there are lives that are sad.
Are sad.
We have... I have an uncle, the same thing. It's a sad life, yet he was much loved.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's so odd to say when I die, psst, I don't want anybody getting together. I don't want you trading stories about me. I don't want to be memorialized. That really shows such a...
dark view.
It's also... It doesn't give you or anybody else any... I don't think closure's ever the right word.
Maybe,
I hate
maybe.
that word. But it doesn't give you an opportunity...
closure is because it's not closure.
To get together and trade stories. Because once you're dead...
then it's really only about the living.
It's about the living.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe his point was, hey...
You weren't there when I...
Yeah. Well, he would always be at family things. We was like, "Oh, Jack," and then they go because he was sort of boring because he had no experiences.
He had nothing to say.
Yeah. So maybe he sort of felt, hey, if you couldn't help me and say things to me and visit me when I was alive, why the book should I let you have?
Boy,
feel better?
You sure hope people have a chance at another go around when they have a life like that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. And this ends the cemetery portion of the program.
Well, but it's interesting. I was talking to a friend last night, and we're both of similar age. And I think not that you sort of just only talk about, bedpans and Medicare and, pains and grief. But, I think when you get older, you do sort of try to put things in perspective and think about, your own life.
Right.
And what you leave.
It just happens. That's right.
And I don't think that's a bad thing.
No.
Not that you'd be like, a pilgrim, like, beat me and scourge me and whatever, but in heaven I'll have jewels in my crown. No, but still that, there is a legacy. You've lived here for 80 years, and that, what was that one song? If I could, something or other, my living won't be in vain, whatever that song was. If I could, then my living won't be in vain.
Don't know it.
And that fact of if you did one thing, if you helped a little old lady across the street, if you gave $100 to the soup kitchen, then maybe you're not FDR, but you did something for your fellow man.
I think, a life well lived is one that you can say, if you were to weigh it in the balance, that it balances you at least were a neutral presence in the world that didn't make things worse, or at the very least you move things forward.
Just a little.
And Thoreau has a little piece he wrote talking about, I don't know it by heart at all, but that a life well lived can be somebody who, if you tended a garden, that is something that you have done. That you made something.
I just love your gardener in Scotland when you said that.
Farmer McGregor.
Yeah, right.
What?
That's why I always say, whether it's someone wonderful or even Hitler, that kind of life force, I cannot believe when that person dies, however ignominiously or as a gentle death, that life force just goes
gone.
It has to do something.
There's some energy.
Now, what it does, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. The body, the corporeal self.
Yeah, right. And that's
is clearly just a carapace.
Yeah. A worn-out old Chevy coupe.
Yeah, right. But
with a lot of rust.
Looking at a body, that's not the person is never the flesh. Never. Never. It's just the clothes we wear, essentially.
I remember one of my friends. He worked. This was during high school. He, as a lot of us did, worked in factories during the summer to make some money, whatever. And there were a lot of really not particularly bright people who worked around him, because they just didn't have much opportunity, whatever. And he would just do funny little things to keep himself occupied in this horrible job. And he convinced his whole people that he was a carrot during the Civil War. And he in reincarnation, and he did this whole thing, and he can remember General Robert E. Lee's horse chewing on him. Oh, it was hilarious.
He made this stuff up.
And these people believed him.
Yes.
Yes. I always remember that was so funny.
I was a carrot during the Civil War. Oh, Lord. Okay, well, I've had two thoughts that were in my head and disappeared. One, when you said Scotland, there was something. Oh,
yeah,
it has to do with cemeteries, Scotland.
Yes. Oh, good. So we're on
no,
target.
You were saying. But I can't remember what brought it to my attention. There was a grave in Scotland that I saw. Now, excuse me. Two old people trying to remember things that they're attempting to say. When you said about the man that was always seated at his wife's grave when you and your mother would go to see your dad's grave, it reminded me of this dog in Edinburgh, Scotland, to whom there's a big statue in the...
Oh, okay. I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
And this dog... a little Scotty, of course. When his owner died, followed the hearse and the cortege to the gravesite. And then every day for the rest of that dog's life, he went back to the grave and sat there. Well, everybody knew it, noticed it. And the dog, lived another 10, 12 years after that. Every day went and sat at his master's grave. And when the dog died, the community in Edinburgh that knew of him buried him
at the foot of the grave.
Right not at the foot of his, no, but sort of when you walk in, there he is. Right. He's buried in such a place of honor, right in front of this old church that I think Mary, Queen of Scots, had built in her time. And what was so moving is that at this dog's grave, people would leave things. Now, as Warhol, people tend to do, people leave things. Do you know what they left? What was there?
Dog
and
bones.
I just, no, sort of like that. It was sticks. Because anyone who's ever seen a dog happily walking down the street with a stick in his mouth.
Well, I can match.
And there's just a pile of sticks.
I can match that. There's a famous in Japan at I can't remember, one of the busiest stations. I think in Shinjuku. I can't remember, one of the biggest stations. And there's this dog Hachiko. And Hachiko was the same sort of thing. But Hachiko would come. He'd go with his master to the station. The master would take the train,
and he'd be there when he...
Yeah. Well, the master went and died at the office. And same thing every day. Hachiko would go in the evening to wait for the master to come back, and when he wouldn't,
and
there's a statue of Hachiko. Yeah,
it breaks your heart. But that's
that's what people say when I say, I'm curious about that a dog, you can kick a dog and slap it and be brutalized, and it still will.
Okay. Yes.
Chuck,
yeah,
did you
they're
listen
always,
what we were
Chuck!
talking about?
Well, that's what we talked about at the beginning. It's how we got into cemeteries and why we're still so ghoulishly talking about it. Chuck just wrote, just wondering if Tom was aware that there's a webcam not focused on Andy Warhol's grave. Yeah, that's why we ended up in the cemetery.
Yeah, well, the other ghoulish part of this, and I'm not sure how you do it, but let's say you would like to today, because you love Andy Warhol's work and blah, 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 blah. You can somehow, and I don't know what the machinations of this are, can send, I'm sure it costs some money, a Campbell soup can, and it will say, from Lynn Cullen, and you can see the person coming and delivering it, which I think is maybe even more ghoulish. But anyway,
not ghoulish, just whoop-de-doo. Who gives a shit?
Yeah. Well, no, it's one thing if you just say some, and then this is how I know because they used to tell us at the museum, like some little Japanese girl had carried it all the way from Okinawa. And to put it on. Now, there's something sort of both fetishistic but sweet. But to make it a kind of call Macy's, and I wanted to
that doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
That's ridiculous. Okay, we'll stop.
Now to life.
This grave conversation will come to an end, and we will come up with something slightly more frivolous.
Requiescat in pace.
Okay, we're taking a break, and we'll return.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. This week, great deals on gift cards to Seba, Cadillac Ranch, and Crazy Mocha. Supplies are limited. Bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. Bergbargains.com.
Hi, Lynn. Les Ludwig, your scandal-free independent candidate for mayor of Pittsburgh, the founder of a program that produces revenue opportunities for government, the best long-term news in town. No longer the usual wait for taxes to go up at budget time. Pittsburgh's home, and I've brought a new way to finance government to city council. That thinking is spreading like fire, with 7 cities from Philly to L.A. building finance programs based on it. An example, one community in California has signed a long-term $600,000 per year contract with a soft drink company. Right now, we have over $1 million that may be used to reduce taxes right here in Pittsburgh. Stay tuned as I work as your mayor, building new thinking for a better future. Vote Ludwig, the only scandal-free independent candidate.
Paid for by Les Ludwig for mayor of Pittsburgh.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
All right, we're back and we have a call?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
All right, let's do it.
There's someone calling from the grave.
Hello?
This is Les Ludwig.
You're kidding me, Les.
No, I'm not kidding you. I'm live in here with you. And it's not the cemetery bit. What I'm talking about is real, and it's live, and it's the biggest real news of this period.
And
yesterday you were wondering, you were running out of news. No, you're ignoring the news that's right in front of you. What you have in front of you is the future of government, and therefore it affects everyone at every level. And what you're doing by not playing into it is you're actually hurting society. Let's get real. Let's come forward and say, hey, Les, what else are you bringing us? Because for 12 years at City Council, I'm the guy who's been bringing the ideas. And people say, oh, Mr. Peduto's got it by the tail. There's nothing to talk about. No, there's lots to talk about. Do you want to play a part? Then put me on your show, and I'll show you how.
all right, well, thank you for that, but I don't know what else to say. You just told me I was part of the problem because I'm not talking about you?
No, you're part of the problem because you're not talking about the fact that there is a national program that's advancing. It's got, look, Huntington Beach, California signed a $600,000 contract. Guess what? San Francisco's climbing up the wall to try and follow.
I don't know what you're talking
any
about.
of it?
No, I'm not
Come
following
on, get
anything,
on
including
board.
you. Listen, wait a minute. Where are you from? You from New York?
No, I'm a Philadelphian originally.
Because you sound East Coast accent. Like I was just trying to play shit. Accents interest
I've
me.
been here since '60. I came here to manage a business that was 35,000 in the hole, and built almost a monopoly in frozen eggs and bakery supplies.
So if you came in '60 to rescue a company, you're no spring chicken. How old are you?
I'm 80 and a half.
Oh, good for you.
All right.
That's 80 years of living experience that included finance. It included almost any phase of government.
Okay.
It included assisted living in my own home.
Okay. Well, okay, but thank you. But I was going to head into another topic, much to your chagrin, I must say. I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call. Anyway, good try. So we just heard this commercial, and then he pops up.
Oh, that was the one? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I didn't realize that. That was so funny. Oh, well.
Okay, so here's
I
what
have no idea what he was talking about. But
He's running for mayor.
No. But the thing about Huntington and San
No,
Francisco.
I don't know either, but don't. I mean, he'll call back.
He'll
and
call
tell us.
back, yes.
Now, I said we were going lighter.
Lighter, yes.
I don't know.
On angel wings from the grave
No,
to heaven.
I was, anybody who listens to me knows that
Yes.
I have this lack of regard, I think would
Yes.
be a way of putting it, for these overly conscientious parents of today. A lack of regard for overly
No, I understand what you said, but I'm
conscientious
trying to think what you
parents.
meant in terms of the context of that.
I mean the helicopter parenting. Do you know what that means?
No, I don't.
Those are parents who hover
Oh,
over
oh,
their
oh, oh,
kids,
oh, okay.
who will not let their kids breathe
Right.
without them, and honey, here, do this.
Well,
and
remember
here, do
when
that.
I
And
told
let
you
me-
last week we had our baseball fracas about Seal Castellass, the mother sitting in the bleachers saying, "Oh, pray that he'll hit a home
Oh,
run."
right.
I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah. Same kind of thing. Maybe I was ranting actually about this, but and it was because of summer camp. Did we talk about that?
No.
Okay, so parents, would send care packages to
Oh, yes,
kids
right.
at camp. Well, that used to be okay because parents had some sense of restraint.
Right.
They'd send a chocolate bar to
Right,
or
I made my
whatever, blah,
favorite
blah, blah.
brownies, and
I
he
made,
won't get these
and
during
so
the
and so,
month.
let's
Right,
make
yeah.
so. But of course, with today's
Oh, sure.
parents, and especially the ones that are over the top
Mm-hmm.
and will do anything for their little honeys, the care packages have gotten absurd. The camps have found them to be disruptive because some kid gets,
55 cartons of Ben and Jerry's.
Exactly. Things like that. And so a lot of camps are saying you can't do it.
Right.
You can't, or we'll inspect them. We'll see what we can get. And how parents are going around that by hollowing out books and sticking
Oh, my
things. I mean, you just
God.
can't imagine.
It's like in a prison.
No. So I think the Wall Street Journal reported on this last week. But the Journal has another story. Obviously, some of their reporters must have kids in these camps that they know this stuff. But the thing today is even more disgusting. Okay?
Tell me. Okay, but one parenthetical thing. There was just 2 weeks ago, maybe even sooner, Ira Glass did this thing on American Life about camp. And he and his assistant went to a couple of camps. And it was charming because it played off of not this kind of crap, but just
the
like
real
telling the
old
stories of
fashioned-
ghosts and how the little kids would get frightened and the older kids would have to say, well, we don't really believe the stories of the ghost monster who ate the girl in 1971.
In the woods,
But we
yeah.
still have to tell it for the little kids. It was charming. It was really charming.
Well, a lot of people have wonderful memories of sleepaway camp.
At
and all
Camp
that.
Wungabangabuchi.
I do not, and I think
No, neither
I've told some of my camp stories. But listen to this. This you would think. I'll name her because the Wall Street Journal does. Nancy Corson Schwartz. Nancy Schwartz put her 10-year-old son, Harry.
Harry Schwartz. Shoe salesman to the stars.
Why would you do that to a kid? Harry Schwartz, come on.
It could have been Menachem Schwartz,
No,
too.
but
Is that
Harry,
worse?
Harry is just sort of like, classic. Okay, so Harry Schwartz, 10 years old, goes away for his first sleepaway camp. And his mother said what the camp does to calm down these hysterical parents of today is that every day we post on the camp website hundreds of pictures that have been taken of the campers
so you can
enjoying.
see the kids.
So
Okay.
you can. We might even have some video. So if you want to see your kid and how they're doing, apparently this woman is so obsessed. She knows that they post those pictures at 3 a.m.
So she stays up or jeez.
At 3
Get a life, Mama Schwartz.
at 3 a.m. and she told Harry before he went to camp.
Okay.
Every time you see someone pointing a camera at you, I want you to give me a thumbs up so that I know you're
okay.
having a good time. So every day at 3 a.m., she's on her computer looking, and there's little Harry. Here's Harry at the at the dock.
That
Here's
reminds
Harry
me of, remember
at lunch.
years ago when, what was her name? Carol, what was her name?
Carol Burnett used to
Would you pull her
ear.
ear for her grandmother?
Well, but this, the thing is, stop and think of what this does. This puts the 10-year-old child in the position of, while he's away, supposedly,
Yeah,
at
not
camp,
being away.
having to think about his mother all the time and not worrying his mother.
Right.
So you have this strange role reversal where he has to take care of his mother. One of the reasons you send a child to camp, Nancy Corson idiot Schwartz, is to allow a child to be away from you idiot, and to live on his own and not have to there's a camera, I bet, hi, and it has gotten so. And she got so
Excessive.
excited that every photo of Harry, he's this. Every photo. He's dutifully keeping his mom from apparent suicide. And she is so thrilled. And she told the Wall Street Journal reporter that she's so happy that Harry's having a wonderful time that she said, I told him, you want a phone? You want a TV in your room? It is priceless what you have done for me this summer.
Well,
there is a bad parent.
Yeah.
There is a horrible parent.
Well,
they're everywhere.
Well, the other thing I think of is there's that. I mean, talk about cutting the umbilical cord or apron strings. But the other part of it is, I'm sure, I mean, not so much this, but like when I was saying about Ben and Jerry's, it's sort of like she probably has the biggest Birkin on Park Avenue, or her husband, drives a Jaguar. It's like telling the kids, "Oh, my son's the really top," and you're getting ice cream from.
Well, it is. It's always about competition and status.
Yeah.
And these people, this woman is emblematic.
Good word. Yeah, emblematic is right.
Of the parents of today, I cannot stomach them.
Yeah.
I find them, and this shows there's a level of stupidity and self-centeredness at work here that is so intense that she doesn't have a clue that anybody reading this in the Wall Street Journal today is reacting like I did.
Right.
I would think, okay, listen to this.
I mean, it would even be one thing to say when they take the one photo of all the campers, as a memorial, and they would give it back to you to take home. If you did it once, you'd say, okay, that's cute. I did it like Carol Burnett pulling the earlobe.
Yeah, right.
But to do it all the time,
Also,
it's like, think of me, think of mommy, think of mommy, think of mommy. Think of mommy. Mommy's worrying about
sick.
you.
Okay, here's another one. Here's another mother who carefully looks at the pictures every day.
At 3 a.m.
She has a little girl named Sophie at Camp Greylock in the Berkshires. And her mother says, there are certain things you want to see. She had bug bites. and she was scratching them till they bled. I want to see a picture and be able to zoom in and see if they are infected.
I mean, haven't we heard about camp people, whatever, are supposed to be in loco parentis. They're supposed to be watching
that's exactly what it's about. So and this story does not. So camps have now had to like go to all kinds of extremes to stop these idiot care packages coming. Now, guess what they're doing? Here's a camp founder. He said soon after they started putting the pictures up on their website, right, he started noticing a trend. Many of the kids always had their thumbs pointing skyward in every picture. So all of these poor little kids were sent away with the same thing. You let me know you're
they were doing it for Mrs. Koretsky Schwartz. Hey, Mrs. Koretsky Schwartz, we love you.
No, it's for their, because it shows how many of these parents there are.
Same thing.
So listen to
Maybe
what...
they should say, give the middle finger.
Yeah, right. So you know what? Well, that's what the camps have started to do.
Oh, really?
Because, listen to this. When a child gives a thumbs down, which can happen, or simply does not give a thumbs up,
right,
these camp directors get phone calls, which is why many camps now
have stopped photos,
have banned the gesture. In other words, they have to, now little kids are told, okay, so your mom says, you make sure you give me a thumbs up, and then the poor little kid gets to camp, and the camp says, none of you are to do this.
Well, that's
leave these children alone. It's the parents that cause all these troubles.
Well, also, I remember when we talked about something.
Listen to this.
All right,
you think it stops these parents?
Oh, no, I'm sure not.
No, because here's a parent. Michelle Pinkert of Chicago.
What a disdainful Pinkert.
Had asked her 11-year-old son to always give her the thumbs up signal at the Trails End camp in the Poconos, and he, I don't know, must have written her a postcard or something, and he said, Mom, they don't let us do a thumbs up. I can't do that. And so she said, all right, well then I want you to wear your hat backward.
You know, the first thing I remember,
I hate him! Excuse me, go ahead.
Okay, well, we were talking not about camps, we were talking about, was it Alan Sherman? You know,
El
Mata. But the point of that thing is, we can sing it for you because we did once before. But the point was that this kid, oh my God, it's terrible, it's terrible. And then he says, oh, forget all that. That wonderful time.
Exactly.
Of course, the kid's going to have a mosquito bite or not be picked.
Hello? Caller? Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Hello? Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Maybe it was Mrs. Koretsky Schwartz about to lambast us.
I cannot tell you. I mean, I encountered these parents for the first time when I adopted my son.
Uh-huh.
And
you sent him to camp or just in the same...
He went to camp for 1 week. He wasn't wild about it, just like most... like I was. But I didn't do any of this stuff. I never do any of this stuff. I cannot believe people don't understand what the purpose is.
Yeah, right.
Leave these children alone.
Well, and the point is, I'm sure one could say, with all this age of pederastia and whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Well, do the what do you call it? Research. Find a good camp.
Excuse me, and you know what else? Yeah, parents say that, well, in this day and age with all these, things that can go wrong. I got news for you. Things always used to go. I mean, we have... The problem is...
And fathers diddle their daughters. I mean, forget about going to
Give
camp.
me a break. Come on. All of a sudden, in the last 30 years, 500 million people have become child molesters. No, there are always child molesters.
Exactly.
It's just now there's an awareness. And generally speaking, what Tom said, of course, is true. They're not hiding behind the bush to jump out at your child.
Right.
They're somebody you invited into the house, for
Dirty
God's
Uncle
sake.
Milty.
Yeah, exactly right. Jesus, people, and this is again what media
have done. Oh, right. Yes,
especially
exactly.
television.
Yeah.
To terrify parents. So again, the selling
severe weather warnings.
Oh yeah,
rain. In my day, it was rain.
I know. You know what they even call, like Channel 11? I think they always say in the severe weather center or something. It's
something like that.
It's always you could have a day
catastrophic
with sun, blue skies, and still they're reporting from the severe weather center. And we will of course be up all night. You go ahead, go to sleep. We will be up.
And when the 3 tornadoes hit your house,
we'll be
report
tracking everything. Don't you worry for a moment. We will be here for you.
But that was, as I was saying earlier, 15 minutes of fame. They have to make a rain into something that batten down the hatches.
I think a child would actually be better off being raised by wolves than raised by these people.
Oh.
You heard of your children being raised by feral wolves?
Yeah. Well, I think Mrs. Karushka Schwartz is feral parent.
She's absolutely one
nuts.
Of a million.
Well, no,
they're
it's true.
all
it's
nuts,
true.
and they make each other nuts.
Oh,
so
God.
that's what happens. It just builds.
My son gave the thumb, and yours didn't.
Yeah. Well, I always tell you no because you can never be too sure. And you let him do that. Oh my God. I cannot tell you how many times people would say, "You let your son do what?" And I once read an article from some guy who said he gave his children sharp knives, all the stuff you're not supposed to do. I mean, they were of a certain age to a child, and said, have some fun with them. And I mean,
with sharp knives.
No, he went out of his way to do everything to show that these people were nuts. And no, his kids turned out okay. He might have gone too far, but whatever. I mean, playgrounds today. If you fall off a piece of equipment,
there comes a lawyer.
No, you bounce for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's I hate it. I hate it.
Well, I hate that expression, but it really is true. Shit happens, and it's not because someone necessarily has been, what do you call it?
Well, think of accidents that happened in your life. That if they were to happen today, if they were to happen today, everybody would say to you, "Well, you sued, didn't you?"
Yes, right, exactly.
I mean, oh God. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll stop. However, I cannot help it. If the Wall Street Journal keeps printing these articles about these parents of today, I am going. And there's no. They just lay it out there. They're not doing a rant. They lay it out there.
Right. She is inflamed, listeners.
Oh, nothing makes me crazier. So I think we have to take a break. We'll be right back.
It's right.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Yeah. Salad on Saturday, fruit on Friday, throw-a-ball Thursday. Water Wednesday, touch your toes Tuesday. Let's move Monday, swap us next Sunday.
60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov. A message from USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
This week's Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for a look at the preview of Devon Magwood's homecoming show. Plus, The Black Crows, the street party at Southside Works, Crash Kings, and news of the weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone with GPS-enabled listings at citypapermobile.com.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Hello, we're back. I should say, by the way, that I shall not be here tomorrow.
Are you going to summer camp?
I'm going to the state that I went to summer camp in.
Oh, what state is that?
Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin.
I went up in northern Wisconsin,
So you're going to
where the mosquitoes look like B-52s. I mean, oh my God. This will place it. The year I went to camp, 8 weeks.
Of camp?
8 weeks.
Wow, that's a long time.
8 weeks. No care packages, no...
No
and
thumbing.
Believe me, if they had done pictures, I would have gone like this. Get me out of here! This will place it. I remember them loading us. At one point, we got loaded onto a bus and drove forever to get to a movie theater. And they let us go to see West Side Story.
Oh, my.
So what that year would be. Also what happened that year is...
63 or something like that?
No, it's before that.
No.
No?
No.
No? It has to be.
No.
Okay, then I'm remembering it wrong, because it has to be. It was also the year that...
I mean, the music...
It's also the year that Marilyn Monroe died.
Oh, no, 64.
Okay, then that's not true either. I couldn't have been... I wasn't that old.
No, because that I know about Marilyn.
Wow.
But the reason
maybe
movie,
I was.
I think the Broadway show might have been in the late 50s, but the movie was 3-4 years after that. So I'm sure it was like 62.
You know, when your memories are tested like that, and then it makes you wonder, of all the memories you have, which are true? Do you know what I mean?
They're true if you think they are true.
Okay, the other little news nugget I have here.
Oh, yes.
Is Sanjay Gupta. You know who that is? Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Something to do with marijuana?
Yeah, but it's CNN. He's
okay.
And he actually was offered the Surgeon General's position by Obama.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he wisely turned it down because he actually has, I think, more power as a CNN.
Well, because remember that really wonderful black woman, was that under Bush or who was that under? And when she made
Joycelyn Elder.
Yeah, and remember when she made the comment about
masturbation might not be a bad idea.
Out
She's
she
gone.
went. Mm-hmm. Was that under
I interviewed
Bush,
her
or was that
once.
under Clinton?
No, I think that was Carter.
No, it wasn't that long ago. I don't think it was that long ago. No, that would have to be, my God, like 25 years ago.
All right, okay. Okay, so we just don't agree on anything. Except Sanjay Gupta has, on Sunday, or Sunday, he's doing a documentary called Weed, W-E-E-D, at 8 o'clock on CNN. And he's been working on it for over a year. He traveled around the world, interview medical experts, everybody. And he said in the course of doing the research for this documentary, what he found was absolutely stunning, his word. And he even wrote a piece for Time magazine in 2009, so that's not terribly long ago, which was titled, quote, "Why I Would Vote No on Pot."
I mean, no, in terms of legalization.
Legalization. This is in 2009.
Okay.
And, you know, when Sanjay Gupta writes something like that, that's a biggie.
Yeah, sure.
Well, he says now, I am here to apologize. And
Don't bogart the roach, as they used to say in the 60s and 70s.
He says now, I did not do enough research. I did not review papers from labs in other countries. I was dismissive of the loud chorus of legitimate patients whose symptoms had improved markedly using marijuana. I lumped everybody together as just a bunch of malingerers looking to get high. I mistakenly believed the Drug Enforcement Agency. I believe that marijuana being listed as a Schedule I substance, along with heroin and cocaine, that they did it because of sound scientific proof.
But now, is he going on to say he would care?
Here's what he says.
For medical use only, or just for use for any reason, recreational?
He pretty
use
much
or?
says just legalize it. He says they did not. The DEA does not have the science to support that claim. And when it comes to marijuana, I now know that Marijuana does not have a high potential for abuse. There are very legitimate medical applications for marijuana. In fact, sometimes marijuana is the only drug that works. And then he shows some cases, including a little girl who had horrible seizures, almost from birth. She was just plagued. By age 3, this child was having 300 seizures a week.
Oh, God.
Well, you can't live, obviously, doing that.
God.
She had been on every medication that medical science could throw at her. Then they
just had this image is horrible, but of her like toking
up at 3. Then they tried medical marijuana.
Wow.
And it has
Changed
almost
her life.
totally calmed her brain down. She now has, if she has seizures, they're limited to about 2 a month.
Wow, what a difference.
So
Jeez.
he said the problem is that he has seen so many people like this as he researched it. And, he's not he's a doctor. And
sure.
And he says, we have been terribly and systematically misled for nearly 70 years in the United States.
Well, and
I apologize for my own role.
And I don't know. I'm not a pharmacist, but the cost, like for a roach, is like what, 10 cents or $1? I mean, some of these heavy-duty psychotropic drugs cost like $20 a pill. And then they do such awful things to the body because they're just so systemic. And
pot has been a godsend for people with cancer, people with all kinds of disabling.
Well, you wonder really he doesn't say that, but I can't believe, since you can grow it in your backyard like basil, that the drug companies aren't behind this. Because they'd rather sell you propofol.
There's a lot of people behind this, and always have been,
I know,
right?
moral, whatever. But I think there's a lot more in terms of the dollars. I mean, because the lobbies for drugs are amazing. They spend a bloody fortune on it.
Yeah. He says the potential for marijuana to become addicting to people get it dependent on it. It is so much less than, you name it, any other.
Drugs.
I mean. Less than alcohol, less than, obviously, nicotine, less than cocaine, crack, anything.
Crystal meth, all those things.
It is the most benign of all these drugs. Oh, yes, people can say, but human...
Remember Harry Schwartz? He choked himself up because his mother was such a jerk.
Oh, I hope. Yeah, right.
No, because one thing, I mean, we've all smoked dope a little bit. I was never a great user, but I just remember for me, it was always just sort of, you felt sort of mellow, as opposed to just getting on some of these drugs where you go out and, buy $18,000 worth of stock in 1 minute.
Keep in mind, and he reminds us, well, up until 1943, marijuana was part of the, a drug.
Really? I never knew that.
It was legitimate. One of the conditions for which it was still prescribed in the early 40s was for neuropathic pain. It's a miserable pain that's tough to treat. It feels like burning and lacerating and pins and needles. And marijuana has long been documented to be the most effective drug for this awful pain. Although, try to get it here in Pennsylvania. You can't. We don't allow medical marijuana in Pennsylvania. Wow. So somebody who has neuropathic pain in Pennsylvania has to take something like morphine.
Oh, God, what that does too.
OxyContin.
All right, yeah.
And the thing is that those medications don't work as well as marijuana. And he says this, most frightening to me is that someone dies in the United States every 19 minutes from a prescription drug overdose.
Eesh. What a statistic.
Mostly accidental. Every 19 minutes. And he says, as much as I searched, I could not find a single documented case of death from marijuana overdose. You can't OD on it.
Yeah.
It
Well,
is-
no, because number one, it's a thing like if you take a lot of drugs, the older you get, people take 10 pills a day or something. And, if you go to one pharmacy and you have a good pharmacy and they'll say, oh, well, did your doctor know you're taking, I'm going to call him up and blah, blah, blah. But the other thing is I have a friend who just had knee surgery. And she's a woman, mid-60s, and had the surgery and all went fine. And then as a kind of prophylaxis, they gave her, I guess it was some sort of morphine after because of pain or whatever. And her system didn't do well with it, and they immediately knew that, so they had to flush her out with water to just get it. And then she got an infection in her bladder, and it was just,
You're just giving her
And she's now, the knee's going better, but they're still dealing with that poisoning from the morphine.
Anyway, he says he's very intrigued by studies in Israel and in Spain that are looking at the anti-cancer effects of marijuana and its components. He says, I'm really intrigued by this stuff. And in fact, the drug also might help alleviate symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And he feels so chastened. Obviously, I'm reading what he wrote here. I promise to do my part to help genuinely and honestly fill the remaining void in our knowledge about marijuana. And clearly, marijuana will be legal everywhere soon because finally this orgy of craziness and misinformation is going to end. The war on drugs was one of the stupidest, most wasteful...
Well, what's interesting? I was just thinking about that. It's very funny because right now they're finding out, some things like crystal meth and that are far worse because the way they teach it. But what's very interesting, crystal meth and all those were drugs that, yes, a lot of, in quotes, counterculture people, but mostly they were, stockbrokers and that who wanted to stay up all night and that sort of thing. But just because people link marijuana to like our time of our youth, with, barefooted, dirty jeans, bandana wearing, peace symbol, and it's like, oh, those nasty, dirty street people smoking their... I mean, that's what it really comes from.
Yeah, but see, here the thing is, those nasty, dirty hippies smoking pot are now the President of the United States, most members of Congress, your minister, your doctor, your
Well, I don't know if they were the nasty, dirty...
Well, yes, they are!
Well, to some degree, the activist ones.
I'm one of them. I mean, we grew up to become...
Yeah, no.
Totally...
But I think in the minds of the Republicans and other conservatives, it was those dirty...
Listen, if marijuana shows up at a party of 50 and 60-somethings in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania,
right.
Does anyone even say boo?
No.
No. And it does, increasingly. So we're all flouting the law when that could be taxed.
Yeah, sure.
When that could be, pot smokers would happily pay a tax.
Yeah, sure, of course.
And I'm sure the price would go down for what they're paying. What they're paying now.
I mean, what would be very interesting is to see what it would do to things like, well, the illegalities, like the drug cartels, because it could be grown in the back of a giant eagle or wherever, and then you wouldn't have to get it from Medellin where they pull people's fingernails out.
Absolutely true.
It'd be very interesting.
Well, I think we might live to see it.
Yeah. Well, did you hear about this? There's a weird thing to end with, but this notion. Where did I read this? Maybe it was the Wall Street Journal. That there are whole bits, both in places like Montana and Idaho, and then in Canada and the western provinces above them, where the Mexicans have bought up, dumped Mexican workers, like in the middle of the...
You know what? You know where they've done it too?
Where?
Right near where I went to summer camp.
Oh, really? Okay, great.
And actually, apparently, the Wisconsin State Police now often are getting into helicopters and they're going over the
forest. But these guys supposedly don't know where they are.
They don't know where they are. I know.
They're growing marijuana.
I read it too. I read that same article too. Well, some of them are in Wisconsin, which you would think would not be a great place to grow pot, but I think pot.
As they're going, you can imagine all these Wisconsin farmers. Hola, ¿qué tal?
That's not the accent.
Well, but it's words. I don't speak that to. I mean, I don't pretend to have a Latino. No,
you were doing Latin. I thought you were doing.
Hola, ¿qué tal? How's it
What
going?
does Kate tell me? Oh, okay.
How's it going?
Hey, not bad. Where are you from then?
Cuenca.
What? Okay, so that's it. Anyway, just wanted to say, Sanjay, thank you. You're on to... No, that's been there. The Warhol Bridge closing.
No, but it was before.
Thursday evening for repairs. It's no big. When are they going to put that yarn on the bridge? Because that's what I want to see.
Oh, I think isn't that part of the?
I don't know.
The
regatta-ish
No.
thing?
The Piff-Off.
The Piff-Off?
The Pittsburgh Festival of Firsts, International Festival of Firsts. It's the one thing they've done. This will be the third iteration. It was started under Carol Brown. I think she actually put some money towards it. And the idea was International Festival of First was that they would only host things that either were completely brand new, cultural things, dance, music, performance, ballet, whatever, or had premiered elsewhere but never in the United States.
Huh.
And the first year was probably the most intense.
So this is why that huge rubber ducky that was in Hong Kong is coming here.
Right. Well, no, it's very interesting. I just learned this about that from China, not even from Pittsburgh. I thought it was like one duck and they, package it up.
You mean there's a lot of them?
No. Well, a lot of what you do is when you say, I want one, they say, well, this is how much for the amount of time. They send you the specifications and you have to fabricate it for your use, and then you
So
sort of
who's
slash
fabricating
it.
our duck
I have no
here?
idea. I have no idea.
So there's going to be this huge, ridiculous rubber ducky floating around and a bridge covered in yarn. Is that going to be cool or what?
Yeah.
It's supposed to happen this month.
No, September or October, because that's when the Piff-Off happens.
Pretty sure it was August.
No.
For the bridge? Jess.
Well, the bridge, I don't know. But
the bridge was supposed to be
later.
August. Okay.
But anyway.
It should be at the same time.
I had the opportunity to see the duck when I was in Hong Kong then.
And what did you think of that?
It's pretty impressive.
Although the duck clearly is not like a rubber ducky because at one point it deflated.
Well, no, what happened was, this is very funny, it went up before I got there, and just when I arrived, they had to deflate it because there was some problem, because I guess this was a duck that they'd used twice or something, and they were afraid that it was going to leak. So they deflated it, and there were all these pictures on television.
I know,
this
children.
The children say, the donkey! But then they inflated it for another week or so. But especially the harbor in Hong Kong is so magisterial, and then seeing this duck.
It's so absurd.
And now there's a big to-do because they're going to have another duck, but it's going to be in Taiwan's harbor, and this is a bigger one. It's the Taiwanese sort of like showing the middle finger.
Oh, it's a bigger duck.
A bigger duck. Smaller harbor, bigger duck.
Sounds like a bumper sticker.
Yeah, really.
Well, thank you very much, Mr.
For a weird show, Death
Sokolowski.
Ducks
and Summer Camp.
and Motherfucks from Summer Camps.
Okay, guys. So
and God love you, Mrs. Schwartz.
Really, God. I'm sorry. I'm being. Blah, blah, blah. So I won't be here tomorrow, and I also will not be here on Monday. 4-day weekend for yours truly. Got to get back to the family homestead to celebrate my mom's
happy birthday to her. And have a nice trip.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. See you Tuesday.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.